Hey guys, saw the article about the 87,000 new agents that are being hired over the next 10 years by the IRS and realized I had to do a YouTube on taxes. This is something I talk to my clients about pretty much on a daily basis. And I ask two questions probably 4, 5, 6 times a day. That question number one is, in the future, do you think taxes are going up or down? Everybody admit taxes are going up. And then the second question I ask is, well, would you rather pay taxes now while you think they're low or later when they get higher? And they go, well, I'd rather pay now. But most people are saving money in IRAs and 401ks, which are places where you're going to have to pay taxes later when taxes are higher. And this creates a significant problem in retirement planning. And I find even most advisors aren't properly taking this into account. But I want to talk about these 87,000 new people who are going to be hired to help support the IRS in one form or another. You know, what these people are is they're an admission that we know taxes are going to have to go up, and it's a delaying tactic to try and squeeze more juice out of what we have currently coming in to get as much out as we possibly can, but this will not stop taxes from going up in the future. There's a gentleman by the name of David M. Walker. He was a CPA and the Comptroller General of the United States of America from 1998 to 2008. As the Comptroller General, he was effectively the CPA of the United States, and he was more engrossed in the financial situation of America than pretty much anybody else through both Republican and Democrat presidents. He actually resigned in 2008, and the reason he resigned is because he couldn't affect change. As the Comptroller General, the CPA of the United States, he did not have enough power to make anything change happen. So he actually resigned and left Congress, saying that he was going to go into the private sector. And he spent years now touring the country, sharing about the things that he saw as the Comptroller General of the United States, saying that taxes need to double and go above 50% if our country is to avoid bankruptcy. He actually went on a radio show and he told people that there was a simple 4-letter word as to why this was going to have to happen. There was no choice but for taxes to double. And he said, had people call him to say, some people said debt, some people said kids, Medicare, Social Security, all kinds of different stuff, right? But it was a 4-letter word, and he finally answered the question. The 4-letter word is math. And what I want to do today with you guys is share with you the simple, unavoidable math that tells us that taxes are going to go up. And not just a little bit, but significantly. We've been kicking the can for decades, and the time is fast approaching when nothing can be done about it. We know taxes are set to go up January 1st, 2026. If Congress simply does nothing, the Trump tax cuts will end and taxes will go up for most people 3 to 5%. But taxes are not going to stop there, and I'm going to share with you that math right now. All right, for those of you guys who've never been here before, this is the usdebtclock.org. It's specifically designed to help track the U.S. national debt, all of our unfunded liabilities, and a lot of other interesting financial things that a lot of people don't understand. Now, these are some really big numbers, and you see them ticking up really fast. This might seem super complicated. Go, well, I don't even understand this, but it's actually very simple for you to check out. But I'm actually going to walk you through it. So first and foremost, we talk about the U.S. national debt. This is the number most people are familiar with, that we owe $30 trillion in outstanding debt. What's really cool is they break this down that's $92,000 per citizen that we owe. Each of us have agreed to owe $92,000 as being citizens of the United States of America, because the only place the government gets money is from the U.S. citizens. So we each individually owe $92,000. However, I have a family of 6. I'm the only taxpayer in my home, so I'd actually have to multiply this number by 6. If we divide this by taxpayers, each taxpayer in the United States owes $243,000 is what they would owe each individually in order to pay off our U.S. national debt. This is a huge, massive number. Most people don't have this much debt unless they include their mortgage, and this is a debt that they're born with. My children are each born with $92,000 of debt hanging over their head and growing rapidly. This number right here, this is the amount of money that we bring in each year. This is the tax revenue. We bring in $4 trillion, $4.4 trillion. That means that each citizen of the United States is worth roughly $13,000. You know what? Most of this money is paid by the upper income brackets. Almost none of the lower tax brackets even pay any dollars, but the average is still $13,000 per person. We bring in $4.4 trillion, but we spend $5.9 trillion officially, which means we have a $1.5 trillion deficit every single year based on current spending, not even based on all the new programs that are being passed. But if we take a look at the actual spending, this includes different things that are not exactly accounted for in the budget, miscellaneous spending, etc. We're at $6 trillion, which means we have a little almost $1.6 trillion deficit. When you take a look at this compared to our US GDP, the GDP is all the money everyone in the United States makes collectively. Our debt in the 1960s was 52% of everything everybody made was our debt. It went down to 34%. 2000 was at 56%. Now it's at 123%. That means if we took every dollar everyone in the entire United States earned in a year, we would still have debt left over. And that means no one has any food, no one pays for any houses. 100% of every dollar made in America would not be enough to pay off our current national debt, much less what the federal government brings in. Okay, this would be somebody with, a $40,000 income having $30,000 or $300,000 in debt. That's effectively where we're at, and it's continuing to grow. So, and this is just talking about the debt that we all discuss. When we talk about the unfunded liabilities, these are liabilities that do not even show up on the national debt. These are promises that we've made that have not yet been funded. There's no money sitting around to take care of them, so we have to pay for them out of future incomes, money coming out of that $4 trillion. Social Security, it costs $22 trillion in unfunded liability. That means we would need $22 trillion today sitting in an account to properly fund Social Security. Since we don't have that, this is a debt we now owe, and it's going up every single year. When Social Security was first started, there were 42 income earners to every one Social Security recipient. Today, it's closer to 3 to 1, and by the time the baby boomers are done retiring, it's going to be 2 to 1. And this is continuing to go up every single year. Even more expensive than Social Security is Medicare. We owe $34 trillion on Medicare. So that means that we owe $22 trillion here plus 34 here. And these are other promises the government has made that have not yet been funded. That means we promise these things and we are obligated to pay them. Even though we have no money to pay them, there's another $170 trillion here. So when we add this up, that's 200 trillion, and we're almost $250 trillion of obligations or debt that we have as the United States of America. That means just on these unfunded liabilities, each citizen owes $513,000. That means in my household of 6, that is $3 million that my family owes based on unfunded liabilities, plus this $92,000 debt per citizen. So that's another $600. So $3.6 million is what my family would need to be able to write a check for in order to repay this debt. And we're currently collecting $13,000 per citizen. Taking a look at what we spend our money. So we get this $4.4 trillion every single year. We spend almost $6 trillion every year. And here's what we spend the largest amounts of this on. $1.4 trillion goes to Medicare, Medicaid. 1.1 to Social Security, so that's 2.5 trillion. Another 754,000, this is 3.2 trillion, plus another 400,000, we're about $3.6 trillion of what we bring in goes to pay for just these 4 items: Medicare, Social Security, defense, and interest on the national debt. Everything else that we have goes to pay, that $1 trillion extra dollars we have goes to pay for everything else that we possibly have. And this interest on the national debt is only skyrocketing. And as we continue to borrow more and more, the interest on this national debt will balloon as a larger and larger percentage of what we actually have to pay for every single year. When you take a look at how low our income is and how high our spending is, there is no way to sustain this except for to bring in more revenue. And the way the government brings in more revenue is by collecting more taxes from its citizenry. Right? And so right now they're talking about the extremely wealthy, but a lot of people don't realize what the extremely wealthy actually means. We're talking about those people who are making $400,000 plus right now. That's been the number they've been talking about. There's argument whether that's true or not, but I want to talk about dirty rich people. This is something that most of my clients don't realize at what point they become a dirty rich person, right? These people making $400,000 plus, that accounts for approximately 1.8% of all taxpayers. That means out of the, 320 million people living in the U.S., about 2 million of them fall into that category. I think it's right around 2 million or so people. It's between 2 and 3 million people fall into this high tax bracket. But let's talk about what other people who are making a lot of money, people don't realize. Let me share with you what you need to make in order to be in some of these higher tax brackets. All right, so this is the Tax Foundation. They are a nonprofit that focuses on giving tax transparency, and this is updated as of 2022. These numbers are from 2019 because it actually takes a while to parse through all the information, statistics, and number the IRS collect. You can see this actually comes from the IRS statistics of income. So let me walk you through this chart and just show you some things here real quickly. To be in the top 1% of all income earners, you need to make $546,000 of income, and that puts you in the top 1% of all income earners. Okay, to be in the top 5% of all income earners, you need to make $221,000. Again, that $400,000 number, that represents about 1.8% of all income earners. So already here, this top 5%, we're at 221. To be in the top 10% of income earners, a married couple filing jointly needs to make about $150,000 a year. Now, to be in the top 25% of income earners, honestly, guys, that means you're richer than 1 in 4 people. 1 in 4 people is what top 25% means. You have to make $87,000 a year as a married couple filing jointly. This means you can have a husband and wife making, $40,000 each at a general job, working at Home Depot as a manager, been there for 20 years, whatever else, and they are in the top 25% of all income earners. To be in the top 10%, right, this is where a lot of people consider, oh, you're the elite, you're the wealthy. We're at $150,000 a year married combined. This is a husband who makes $70,000 and a wife who makes $80,000, or whatever arrangement you have between those two. At this point, you're starting to pay significant taxes. You're in the top 10% of all income earners. You have 47% of the income is by people in the top 10% of tax brackets, but they pay 70% of the taxes. So they make less than half of all the money, but they pay 70% of the total tax bills. People in the top 25% now, 68% of the income is made by people in the top 25% income brackets, and they pay 86.6% of all income taxes. People in the bottom 50%, they make less than $44,000 a year. They have 11% of the total income, and they pay 3.1% of the taxes. Many people in the bottom 50% don't pay any taxes, actually. But this is what we're taking a look at. To be in the top 10%, you only have to make $150 a year, and to be in the top 25%, you only have to make $87,000 a year. This is where you're paying 86% of the taxes. The bulk of the taxes are paid by the people who are making this amount of money, 25% or more. And yet when you realize that, that means that 75% of the other people aren't paying that much in taxes, right? What's happening here is that 75% is typically who's being talked to. That's the voting masses. If you had a vote and 25% got to vote, hey, we don't want to pay more taxes, and the other 75% said you should pay more taxes, that vote is going to go one direction. This is the thing, that we have a large mass of people who are paying very limited taxes who are saying the top 25% of people should pay more taxes. Whether that's right or whether that's wrong, it doesn't matter. If you fall into this top 25% because you and your spouse make more than $87,000 a year, that means that you're going to be paying more taxes. The debt has to be paid. Our country will go bankrupt if it doesn't. And so what has to happen is taxes must go up, and they're going to start going up on the wealthiest people first. And that means people above this bracket right here, this top 25%. So what does this mean, and what can you do about it? If you understand this basic concept, taxes are going to be higher in the future, not a little bit higher, but significantly higher. And the more money you make, the worse it's going to be for you, right? The more you're going to be villainized. Then you have to realize that you need to take this into account when you're doing your planning. There are steps you can take to minimize and reduce your overall taxes. Not that paying taxes is bad, but we don't have to pay more taxes than we're legally required to. And if you know taxes are going to be higher in the future than they are today, then you'd rather pay taxes now than later. You need to be working on a plan that makes sure that you do that. And if you've got money in an IRA and a 401k, those are going to be taxed at higher tax rates in the future, which means you get less of that money. So you want to make sure that you take the steps today to protect those assets, to make sure that when you get into retirement, you're not in the bottom 50% of income earners simply because the government's taking so much of your money, there's nothing left for you guys.